Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AWS Partners Unplugged. My name is Sri Raghavan, and I'm your host today. AWS Partners Unplugged is a podcast series where we discuss all things related to partners. In this episode, we meet one of AWS partner organization leaders and my favorite role model, Mona Chadha, who heads up infrastructure partners in the AWS partner organization. Mona,
Hey.
first of all, thank you very much for joining us. I know you have a really busy, crazy schedule, if I might say that. You can introduce yourself a lot better than I can in your own words. What do you do here and what makes you excited about this role that you're in?
Oh, well, great. Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. Yeah. So I head up our infrastructure ISV partner organization. So within the AWS Center of Excellence. And so what does that all mean? Well, what we do is I have a team of very smart individuals. Shri is actually on my team as well. I wouldn't really think of us as just partner management. What we do is we really help partners figure out what should their holistic strategy be and how should they look at AWS and partnering with AWS across the board, right? Everything from, we kind of have these three pillars around build, market, sell. And so thinking about how do we create this sort of very transformative relationship and how do we create very transformative, innovative solutions for our end customers that obviously encompass AWS services. But what we're ultimately doing is really helping the partner to innovate on behalf of our customers, our joint customers.
As a part of this, I know you've been a pioneer in the marketplace area, right? In fact, you've been part of the marketplace team back in its inception a long, long time ago. And over the years, it's become a core part of our channel strategy. There is a perception, rightly or wrongly, around marketplace being just another vehicle for our partners to transact. And they feel that it adds to the cost of the business. You and I know it's not true.
Right.
But we'd like our audience to know from you directly, given that you're one of the progenitors of the marketplace area, why you believe marketplace is just more than a cost center and how it actually helps our end customers tremendously.
Yeah. I've been with AWS for 12 years, and during the entire 12-year period, I've had the opportunity to work with Marketplace, either on it as a service, and I've got to see, and obviously working on, within the APO organization, working very closely with how ISVs and LLM providers are leveraging AWS Marketplace. And so I've had that luxury of seeing how Marketplace really benefits ISVs and our end customers. And so really what it is at its core is it's not just a transaction vehicle. I think that's sort of a benefit, but what it really is helping customers and ISVs operate more efficiently and operate faster. And that cuts across things like, accelerating their sales cycle, right? I mean, obviously you can extend, right, private offers to an end customer. You can also look at product-led growth where you're self-servicing if you're trying to understand applications or which software products or which LLMs I'm trying to leverage. Marketplace provides that automation to really make you run faster and more efficient through the features that we have around private offers, private marketplace. If I'm a buyer, I may want just my organization to be able to get exposed to a certain amount of titles that are in the marketplace. And so now I have a very curated view. Well, that helps me run faster. I can develop applications quicker, faster. From a procurement standpoint, I'm not blocked necessarily legal or procurement because it's already a trusted source for software and services and data and LLM models. So now it ends up becoming this, like I said, it's this vehicle to really help you run faster and innovate faster. So I can embed security into that. The other beautiful, security type applications, and I can procure those. The other beautiful thing is it's also embedded into my AWS environment. So think about it from a procurement perspective, everything that I'm buying from AWS, plus now all the third-party titles are all in one. So from a budgeting perspective, super easy, very easy for me to manage. Compliance, right? I now have the ability, all the reporting that's available. If I'm going through any sort of compliance, I can show an approvable way that here's everything that I'm buying, here's how I'm buying it, and these are all vetted security type of applications. So it checks that box. The other thing that it does is it really helps our co-selling. So think about it, when you're an ISV, one of the key things that we found Marketplace doing is really helping gel the whole co-sell motion with our field organization. Our field organization, because our customers want to leverage AWS Marketplace in many ways, not just a transaction, they're there. As a result, our salespeople are using Marketplace as well, and they're helping customers move to Marketplace first so they can get those benefits. And then when you're co-selling as an ISV with our field teams, they're going to ask you, hey, is this going to go through the Marketplace? Because this is where our customers want to be. So I think for all those reasons, you can't really think of it as a transaction. Like I said, that's sort of the frosting on the cake at the end of the day in ISV or as a sales process, but really it's automation. It's helping you run faster, be more efficient. And it results in the numbers, right? The results are in the numbers as, for example, faster sales cycle. It really does accelerate it by 40%. We have these ROI studies that you can download that show how Marketplace is really allowing ISVs and channel partners, achieve over 100% ROI. In some cases, almost 200% ROI for channel partners. So we're really finding that Marketplace is becoming a centralized location for not just procurement, but for really everyone, even engineering when they want to innovate, compliance when they need the right tools. We have vendor insights as an example that really helps on that compliance end as well. So again, we got a lot of features and capabilities in Marketplace. I mean, I could go on.
The many things you talked about, right, in terms of efficiency, security, ease of doing the transactions, and of course, being able to consume a lot of the services. All of these things come from AWS's customer obsession leadership
That's right.
in some ways, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of Marketplace was started not so much because we can make money.
No.
Of course, that's a byproduct. It is because it makes those customer transactions so much more fluid and easy to engage in. And of course, build on those things, which I think is extremely important the way you articulate it. Now, the thing is, in your career here, 12 years, and of course in the industry, much longer, you've had today you manage, I'm going to make a guess, I don't know the exact number, I think about 150 plus ISV relationships that you're responsible for as a one-stop shop. The buck stops with you.
Yeah.
You've been able to deliver a solid template for success. Because you work with a lot of partners, you, I'm sure, are in an advisory position to tell partners what could make them successful in AWS. So what would your recommendation be? What would this template be that you would show to partners for them to be successful with their customers on AWS?
Well, we do have this motion that was built out in Marketplace called Characteristics of a Successful Seller. But really, you can apply that to ISVs as well, like how to manage a partnership and how to be successful working with AWS overall. And then key ingredients are, number one, leaning into integrations with AWS services. That's first and foremost, because what we're finding is that customers, they want partners to have that integration and have multiple integrations with AWS so that they can have an entire AWS estate. It helps them, it helps an end customer, because ultimately it's how they work. They're used to working with AWS and they are in an AWS environment. So they want to make sure that there are solutions that are complementary to how AWS works and operates. So I think that is first and foremost. So, we have a measurement around that called design wins. I would say partners need to really lean in on having as many design wins as possible. That also highlights to our field teams that, hey, look, this partner is very serious about working with AWS. So now it's very easy for now, from a co-sell perspective, bringing that partner in, because guess what? That partner is already integrated to all these AWS services. When you're having that conversation with an end customer and they're integrated to those services, wow, what a beautiful conversation, because then the partner says, I'm already integrated there. So that is very critical and I would say a key ingredient to success. I think the other thing is not thinking about AWS as this sort of separate beast, but to think about it as you think about your normal motions, your sales motions, your marketing motions. I can't tell you how many times I have just told partners that put a page up on your website that talks about your partnership with AWS. And you will be amazed how much customers value that, because they're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, wow, because had I known this, I probably would have brought you into my conversation ahead of time. So really help yourself, right? And so I think part of that is really showing that like your partnership with AWS and your integrations with AWS are part of your normal course of business, and integrate it, talk about it. That really does help, I think, guide that conversation. And those partners that do it really well end up really having the best sort of co-sell motions and customer interaction. As you sort of think about the partnership as well, invest in it. That's the other thing. I love when people think it's just like Amazon.com. You always see tons of vendors just be like, oh, I'm just going to stick it on there and I'll expect people to come. Well, no, you still have to do your marketing. You still have to drive attention.
Yeah.
You still have to do, the normal sort of stuff, right? So you have to make the investments that you would make in, generating a business. You would still need to make those investments. So continue to make those investments in resources, marketing development funds, make those resources. And by the way, we also reciprocate on our end. We reciprocate on our end with the investment. So it's not like we're just asking you to do it. No, we're putting skin in the game as well. So I think that's really key. And then, I think the other areas are around your executive leadership team. Don't forget to bring them into the conversation, because the more and more you get executive buy-in and you make them aware of the things that you are doing with AWS, I can't tell you how many times I've seen on earnings calls AWS mentioned, AWS Marketplace specifically mentioned, and it really helps it signals to the customer that, wow, you're number one, you're making these investments, you're doing some really cool and innovative things, so that when they're talking to our sales teams, or if they're, trying to understand, or they're trying to figure out new programs, new workloads to build, they're probably going to come to AWS and you as a partner. I think all of those things are really, there's many ingredients, but I think those are kind of the key call outs that I would say make a successful partnership. And, we have this notion. So anytime you work with us, we're always sort of hitting on those major elements.
And keep in mind, the podcast is a short format where we are unable to share specific examples, but then we have tons of examples of these kinds of success stories of partners that we're very happy to share.
Yeah.
And best practices we can share as well. That was great, Mona. Thanks very much. Now, it would be remiss on our part to not talk about a very, very small thing called generative AI, which apparently is taking the industry by storm. I do not know why, but apparently there it is. So in all seriousness, I know you have been part of many, many important initiatives within the company towards generative AI as an initiative. I have a two-part question I'll ask both right now. One is, what exactly are you seeing today in terms of the best practices for our partners to work with our generative AI services and capabilities that, from the standpoint of how it quickly benefits customers, number one. Number two, looking into the future, what are some of the big bets that you think that we're taking that is going to benefit our partners and customers?
Yeah, I would say with generative AI, well, now it's agentic AI, right? Generative AI is out, and now it's agentic AI, right?
That's right.
I would say that, overall though, whichever AI we're talking about, there's still a POC notion, right? It's still that motion today where things are still in POC mode. Now they're getting out of POC, moving into production, but a lot of that has to do with trust in your data, trust in the output, trust in the LLM. And so that, I think, is getting better. And you're starting to see a lot more LLM providers out there, right? It used to just be the Anthropics, the Metas, the OpenAIs of the world, but there's now more and more coming out. I do think that there's still an issue with trusting that data, making sure that the right outputs are there. And so that's, I think, the only way you do that is if you create those workflows, and you test and you see what those outputs are. So we're starting to see more things come out than just chatbots, right? We're seeing more more use cases around employee productivity. I would say that's always there, but also these innovative use cases, in financial services, in retail, in healthcare. And so that's really helping us innovate quicker and faster. I still want to caution people that you still have to get the fundamentals down. Don't think you don't need security. Don't think you don't need the data and analytics. Don't think you need those insights. You need all that. So my concern is that while I'm seeing customers invest a lot in generative AI now, agentic AI, it's like, guys, like if you're going to go agentic, this is like all about workflow automation. You're going to need to ensure that you got the security foundations in place, that you have all your data in place, that you have it, you have all your ETL tooling, you have all that done. But like, you still even have your standard BI tool. Like you still need the basics to run that business and to make sure, basics to even get to your generative AI or your agentic AI workload. And so, or your workflow. So, I still get concerned that people forget about that because, that's not as interesting and that's new, but you still have to make those investments. That I think is something that, we will continue to see partners like, Databricks and Snowflake, while they're making those investments, but having those database providers, having that, the data and analytics element of it, the foundational element is really key. So I think that, and then also security. I think that's another area where you're going to start to see more blueprints or emphasis around security.
So, security, data fidelity, scalability, and performance.
Yeah.
These are very high underpinning factors. Now, I also know that you've been part of many of these initiatives in terms of big bets, right? So, for instance, we've announced Amazon Q Index,
Yes.
which is a big part of some of the work we're doing. Can you talk a little bit about some of these big bets that we're going to market with this year?
Yeah, definitely Q. Look, Bedrock is still very foundational for us. So that is definitely going to be part of our strategy and a very important part of it. Q, Amazon Q is, Q for developer, Q for business. These are all areas that Q Index, all of those are areas that we're going to continue to invest in because ultimately you need that sort of application layer to make generative AI or even agentic AI a reality. And so being able to build that very quickly and be able to embed the generative AI sort of workflows and use cases into that is very critical. So we're going to continue to do that. Now, the other thing is, this is not necessarily the fun part of the Gen AI or agentic AI conversation, but you still need compute.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, you still need compute, you still need EC2, you still need your GPUs.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that. And that's a very critical layer that's why we talk about the 3 layers of the stack.
Yeah.
We talk about the compute layer, about building your models in Amazon SageMaker. We talk about Bedrock being able to leverage, and how do you leverage all the different models, not just one, but how do you leverage multiple models through Amazon Bedrock? And then you get to that application layer. But there's a reason we talk about it. And I think a lot of, there's a lot of people who roll their eyes when we talk about it, but it's very important. The infrastructure part of it, the foundational layer, is really critical. And so I think that that's really important, especially when you're talking about these heavy duty workflows in generative AI, you need the compute power to do it.
Yeah, and let's not forget, one of the big things you mentioned was model choice, right? We do not constrain any of our partners to go with just one model, 2 models, whatever it is. That's why we've got a smorgasbord of models. Some of them can also be small language models for different use cases and whatnot.
Yeah.
The problem with the podcast with such an interesting person like you and a topic like this is that it's only 20 minutes. And I think we can talk for the next 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. So I just want to say, first of all, a profound thanks to you for having taken the time. But before I let you go, I always end my podcast with very important trivia question. If you were stuck in a desert island, which sometimes is not a bad thing, what would be one book or music recommendation that you would take with yourself that you absolutely will have to save because that's your solace?
What's funny is that I don't know that I would have like one book, but I will do this. Here's just some trivia for me.
Hey,
I Here's the thing. I can't claim to be a chef or anything. Definitely not. But you know what I love? I love cookbooks. And I love watching cooking shows. I don't know why, but there's some relaxing element to it. And
yes.
the one that I love that really sort of soothes me, and then I tend to cook that type of food is Yotam Ottolenghi's. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got so whenever, like, I think if you are on Delta or United, or I forgot which one it was, but he has a cooking show that I watch, and I'll kind of watch it on repeat.
Wow.
So I would say that that definitely is something that I enjoy. I can't say again that I'm not like a chef or anything, but like for whatever reason, like the cookbooks, I don't know if it's the method, like the methodical thinking of it, and the output of it is so beautiful that you can, savor. That to me is
Yeah.
the thing. So that's sort of, yeah.
That's an awesome choice. Now, in the spirit of give and take, for me, every day changes. But today, I will pick the White Album by the Beatles.
Wow,
If I was stuck in an
you were
island.
stuck in an island. Oh my god.
Thank you very much, Mona.
Yeah.
This was fantastic. Truly, truly appreciate this. I know you've been busy,
Yeah.
so this time that you took has been great.
Thank you so much.
Totally appreciate it. And how can people reach you?
They can reach me on Slack, on email, on LinkedIn. So really, any mode. You can text me on my phone, although I won't give out my number here. But for those of you who work at Amazon, you have my number in the phone tool. So yeah, so you can reach me in various modes.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time.